So tell me, is your network your net worth? I'm sure you've been asked this before, right?
Not really that way. In so many ways.
hmm
Uh, I know I think I mentioned, perhaps not, I have 14,000 people in my personal database, and they encompass so many different things, a lot from a business perspective, but a lot from a resource perspective, knowing people that I'm one phone call away from that could be helpful, not just to myself, but to other people. So, for me, the passion of connecting with people and helping people is, I guess, my reason for being. And having these great resources which I constantly collect and grow, has made me like known as the master networker, but it's a total passion.
And you've taken that to another level, right? You've written a couple books now, in the works with another one. And everybody listening, if you're not listening on YouTube or Facebook and you're on one of the podcast networks, be sure to check out Jeffrey Meshel. His name is spelled Meshel. You can check him out on LinkedIn, and you could get the links, and you could also Amazon his books. They're up there, or other book publication sites. But the one phone call away, right? That was the last. That was the big one, right? That you sort of had recently. Well,
Well,
not recently. It's actually been a little while.
it's not recently, but yes, that was my first book,
hmm
and it just took off, and I was on the Today Show and
Yeah.
speaking in front of a lot of people, and I didn't even know that was going to happen. I literally only went to one publisher, and all of a sudden the book's in 6 languages, and I'm on. It just took off. It was kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, and I've heard of the book. I've seen the book. I've heard it referenced somewhere. So it's kind of crazy how networking, and for me it's through podcasting. That's how one of my ways to network, and here I am, talking to you, and I've definitely seen the book, heard the book, seen the cover, everything. So it's crazy how things kind of happen. What would you say was your breaking point, like that you left the regular workforce, the regular 9 to 5 job? I'm sure at some point in your life you were part of that life, but you took off and you're like, this cubicle life just isn't for me. There's more out there. And since then you've started up numerous companies, which we'll get into.
So I started on Wall Street, and then I worked for a couple different real estate investment companies. I started my own company when I was 27,
hmm
principally because I wanted to, and I just felt that I wanted to be my own boss, and it was very hard. It was very challenging, and but I wouldn't trade it in for anything. And from that, I've created different things. Some things have worked, some things haven't worked, but I just keep going, and you know call my own shots, and it's worked for me. I guess everybody's different.
Um, so starting up a business, was it kind of just like naturally the next thing to do in your life, or was this something your family kind of pushed onto you? What was it? Because I'm sure it was a little different nowadays. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. It's like the hottest, most talked about thing.
If I replay the tape and I think back to then, I was working under the banner of guys much older than I,
hmm
and my partner, who was my best friend, he was also in the company. I brought him into this particular company. He was on one side of the business, I was on the other. And in candor, it wasn't like we didn't like our bosses. They were nice guys, but we felt, we could do this better and
Yeah.
control our own destiny. And, we just went for it. One day we just decided that we're going to put a shingle out there and start. So, trying to be funny and creative, we had to come up with a name. Didn't last long there because it was called AREC, AREC Real Estate, and it stood for Another Real Estate Company. We said, what? So it lasted a little while, but then we just wound up doing other names and creating new
hmm
stuff. But that was the beginning.
I could see reliability and trust was hard to build with that kind of name, huh?
It's really the person that
Yeah.
dictates that outcome. And I was a kid. I in the one phone call, I'll tell the stories about not taking no as an answer. The reality is You have to have perseverance. And
Hmm.
I was, I was, I was doing my first real estate transaction when they were changing the tax laws here in the United States, and the whole world was saying, "Are you out of your mind? Are you crazy doing this?" I literally, only one person called. I sent out this fancy summary. I was building houses in the Hamptons. So you're crazy. Values are going down. So I just kept getting no, 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 and it was my partner turned to me because I was the money guy. I was the marketing guy. Jeff, we're going to get this done. And I looked at him and I said, we don't have a choice. It has to get done. And so I was in the gym. I'm running on the treadmill. I'm trying to think. I got it. This is constant no's. I'm just getting shot down. I got to get from no to maybe.
Hmm.
If I can
Hmm.
get from no to maybe, it's a lot easier to get
Right.
from maybe to yes.
Next step.
And I figured out what to do that. And I got it done.
Would you say, well, what kind of advice would you give someone right now in that age group that's trying to, raise some money, some capital, to start up a business, get investments for real estate? Um, what was your what made you, I guess, better than the others to get that capital over other people?
So one probably has heard this expression and it resonates and it's true. You don't invest in deals, you invest in people. And you believe in the jockey. It really
Hmm.
comes down to the jockey. There's no question you need luck and stars have to align. And so, sometimes you fail multiple times and boom, finally something happens. But it's about the person. And if you stand out, my second book's called The Opportunity Magnet. What do you need to make yourself stand out? People are compelled to you. And I'll elaborate on what I said to you before about
Yeah.
turning no into maybe and maybe into yes,
Hmm.
is that the fact that literally everybody I called on my first deal shot me down and had no interest. They were all very polite, but didn't have an interest. And then it hit me. And I was talking to this one gentleman who had an office on Third Avenue, and he was in the messenger business at the time. And he shot me down, and I said, Jack, I totally appreciate your opinions and your thoughts. You've been around a lot longer than I.
Hmm.
However, I see this very differently. And not only do I see it differently, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I put down deposits. I'm building these houses. I said, would you give me 20 minutes? Give me 20 minutes for me to sit down and tell you what I see and why this makes so much sense. And after the 20 minutes, you still say to me, Jeff, I'm really not interested. I'll shake your hand and walk out. But I'm devoting my life to this. I'm putting every nickel I save down on contract deposits. So either I'm insane or I'm right. Can you give me 20 minutes? Can't say no to that. Can't say no to that. And that what took me from no to maybe. And once I got in front of him, ultimately he and his brother invested. And I knocked out the deal basically with that strategy going forward.
What if that deal didn't pan out as planned? You think that would have changed course?
Look, depending if you went into business in 2006 and you're doing real estate deals, there's a good chance it didn't
Yeah.
work out. Not necessarily because your transaction was a bad one, but the world collapsed.
Yeah.
We had Armageddon. And so, you need a little luck and timing. In my case, I was building houses in Quag for $285,000 with pools and tennis courts on over an acre of land, beautiful houses. Needless to say, those houses are worth, in the seven figures now. And so
Yeah.
that worked out. The deal worked out pretty well.
No, that's definitely one way to look at it. You can't control the economy at the end of the day. Um, but you've since kind of ventured into numerous different things, right? It's not just real estate now. You started up the strategic forum, right?
Yeah, but
Divorce force.
yeah. So the strategic forum isn't a business. It's actually created as a not-for-profit.
Hmm.
It's a very, very high level uh, networking group. And I'm not in love with the word networking because it connotes like
Huh.
trying to sell things to people and
Really?
nipping at toes or heels. It's more, I'd rather change. I challenge people at times when I speak. I said, give me another name other than networking. I came up with my own. And that word is a combination of two words, help others. And so the credo of the strategic forum, its mantra is don't ask what's in it for me, ask how I can help you. And I have a chapter in Manhattan and one in South Florida because I reside in both.
Hmm.
35 members in each, all very successful, accomplished people of all different types of businesses. We have monthly meetings. We have guests come down and present who they are. And, not everybody follows the exact recipe, but
Yeah.
it's about helping each other. And it's become really powerful. Divorce. Do you want to ask me a question on
No, no.
that?
I mean, it's just, yeah. There's definitely a lot of questions about it, but keep going.
So divorce force, I went through a god awful divorce, just a horrible experience. And I would argue that divorce in the hierarchy of horrible things that happen to people in life is right there at the top.
Hmm.
It may be level below death, and it really destroys people financially, emotionally. Uh, Children are harmed, and it's ugly, and it's unfortunate because the matrimonial system or the lawyers, there's a conflict of nature by the very way things are set up.
Hmm.
I want to get it over with, but the lawyers want to keep bringing papers back and forth because that's how they make money.
To this day.
And to this day, I mean, there's some very good people in the business, but there are a lot that aren't. And I've
Hmm.
seen it all. So I've seen the devastation. So me being the networking guy and helping people, one day the epiphany was, I want to meet guys like me. I want to meet other guys like me, successful, have young kids going through this that are here in New York.
Hmm.
And I reached out to friends. I started meeting one guy after another. And the thing that was incredible about it, there was instant camaraderie. It was, it wasn't just venting and being upset. It was actually what I was learning. I was learning incredibly important things that were relevant to my interests that my attorney wasn't telling me. Now, he wasn't intentionally not telling me, but he just didn't think that way. He operates in a box, he's process oriented.
Yeah.
But I'm learning the dynamics of individuals like me. I'm learning things that are so meaningful. In fact, I learned something that was so incredibly important to my divorce. My attorney didn't tell me, but it was extremely meaningful. So then I started doing live events because I started realizing how powerful this was, and that morphed into Divorce Force. And I have a partner CEO that's running that, and we're working on that platform. And it basically becomes a community to empower people affected by divorce, and there's a business side to it as well.
And for anybody interested, looking into it, it's for everybody, right? It's not just males.
It started,
Or
initially it was a divorcing dad council. That's what I
yeah.
called it. I was just doing a lot. It's both for men and women, and it's for everybody.
Interesting. And like, did you just feel there were certain things to talk about? Like, was it almost like a group to make people feel better and kind of, because nowadays, right, it's difficult, right? There's not so many people to talk to unless you go to your therapist, right? Um, so this was kind of like another way around it.
So envision the following.
Hmm.
I would argue that when people start a divorce or going into divorce, first of all, they know zero. They know nothing. And I metaphorically describe it as you just jumped into a giant vat of quicksand. You're sinking, you can't control your legs, you're going deeper and deeper. You're being dictated to by a system that's controlled by matrimony attorneys and a judge that doesn't really care. These judges are overwhelmed and underpaid,
Hmm.
and you're bleeding to death because you're paying a lot of legal fees and you're dealing with the emotional traumas associated with this, and you're alone and you're scared and you don't know what to do and you're emotional.
Mm.
All those combinations of descriptions are bad. To be able to talk to somebody that's not an attorney, that's knowledgeable, that you can vent or talk to, that can impart meaningful things, becomes empowering. I literally get calls every week from people that would say to me, I would say to you, you have a friend that's going through this, they don't know what they're doing, I'll be more than glad to talk to them. And I've got stories about some crazy things that have happened because they call me and I sit down with them and I try to steer them, at least from my perspective, the best way to go. And it really, they're very, very appreciative.
And there's more backstory to this, right? Do you feel that you've had a wild childhood, right? I mean, you went through a lot, and it's something that's previewed in your upcoming book, right?
A little bit, yeah. I talk about it.
And do you think any of that had anything to do with, like, was it a foreshadowing? Like, do you think that could have any part to do with how your life turned out?
I think that becoming introspective, and even to the new book talking about some of this stuff, we are a product of our environment. I mean, we come from whatever it was, and you look at um, you know somebody, they're affected by their youth, how they're brought up. In my case, my parents got divorced when I was 5, remarried each other when I was 15, got divorced again when I was 25. I took care of both of them until their demise. There's a whole story associated with it. So I
Hmm.
had really bad role models. I didn't have the healthy, nurturing, parental
Hmm.
uh, life that other people may have. People that have that, have a greater probability of being happily married because they have that foundation, they have that history, which empowers. I'm now much more knowledgeable about everything, and I have certain views. And I'm going out with a great lady right now, and I would get remarried again. But I just want my best friend. But I've learned so much, and so good judgment comes from experience. experience comes from bad judgment. And um, that's
I,
that.
yeah, I guess I'm going to definitely take this advantage to ask these questions because these are burning questions. And I know they're, they're taboo as well. You know, not everybody likes talking about it, but since you are involved, you know, with divorce force, why is the rate as high as it is, you know, in America nowadays? Why is the trend
Well,
continuing, you know, in that direction?
um, I mean, there are a lot of factors that push, make marriage very difficult to have longevity. One is what we just discussed about where you've come from, and that
Mm-hmm.
you know maybe inside of you, you don't have that fiber that makes a difference relative to maintaining your marriage and staying together. I think that just from a organic perspective, humans are not monogamous by nature. All animals are not monogamous by nature, and I think that depending on where you live and the influences in your life
Mm-hmm.
can dictate, divergent behavior or not. If you live, I'm in New York City, there's just so much distraction here. It's so easy to meet people. And in today's world, with the advancements of technology, dating sites, my new book, I was just cited, said to my associate here, I said, yeah, how many dating sites do you think there are in the United States right now? Take a guess? How many do you think there are?
I would say somewhere between 5 and 10,000.
Well, that's a big number. There are actually 2,500
Okay.
dating sites in the United States, 8,000 in the world in total, at the
Okay.
moment. I mean, it's incredible. I mean,
I mean,
there's
I've heard so many people that made them, sold them, made them, sold them. So I knew it had to be high.
it's high. I mean,
Wow.
but so just to have that, look at Ashley Madison.
Of
About that
course.
site,
Yeah.
right?
That was a huge, huge deal. I,
Well,
God.
it was a debacle because
Yeah.
the technology breach, and they leaked out all their members. But those
That
are people
was,
looking to have affairs. I mean, and
yeah.
it was huge. Their membership is huge. So I think it's formidable. The maintaining a healthy, strong marriage. In the new book, I have a chapter because I addressed a lot of this called 30 plus slash 3 and out. I'm interviewing people that have been married over 30 years
Mm-hmm.
that are quintessentially happy with their spouse, love them to death, best friends, soulmate, and been through it all, good, bad. And I say to them, I ask them, give 12 questions, and I say, before you saw the questions, before I interview you, understand my intention of this chapter is that this chapter becomes a mandatory read for somebody getting married for the first time. You're going to
Got
affect
it.
somebody's life because you're going to impart, based on all these years of experience, something that they should know. And they're coming back at me with incredible things. And a woman the other day I was interviewing, married 52 years, and she was telling me the whole story about her relationship. And then she made a statement that I went, wow. She said to me that her husband anticipates her needs. And I sat there and I said to myself, wow, what a statement. How
Mm-hmm.
much in love, how much do you trust that? How deep is that relationship that person that's your partner anticipates your needs? So some of the observations are literally eye-opening. And again, that's the intention of the book. The second part of the chapter is 3 and out, 30 plus slash 3 and out. There I'm going to interview people that have gotten divorced 3 times. And I want to get their perspectives as to trust, the relationship, just to have the counter.
Total 180, huh?
Total 180. But
uh,
but you hear what people have to say.
yeah,
It's actually fascinating.
that's very interesting, actually. I bet you're learning yourself, right? As you're doing this, you're like, wow,
Can I tell you
these,
something?
yeah, of
This
course.
book, this book, the title of the book, by the way, is
Mm-hmm.
"Trust is a Double-Edged Sword." Trust me. Kind of a play in words. And it covers the entire gamut of trust. And aside from being very cathartic, because I went through a really horrible experience, I had a crooked partner who did all sorts of sociopathic things, and I had to shut down one of my core companies. I'm dealing with all the ramifications of having a thief and a sick person as a partner, and it's beyond violating, not just from a financial perspective, but from an emotional perspective. I feel like I'm a really stupid person, only because my strength is my weakness, because I trust too easily.
Trust.
But I'm getting smarter. I'm actually now sitting back and, I'm becoming more intuitive. And to your point, I'm so into this book. It has so many components of what trust is, not just about getting screwed by somebody, but, I have a chapter in the book. Do you trust yourself? Now, if I asked you that question, do you trust yourself?
Not always. Most of the time, but there's
It,
definitely
it,
part.
So even the way you just reacted, you
Yeah.
don't even realize, but your head went back, you looked up for a second, and you thought. And that's again about this book being self-aware. I found so much interesting stuff on that question and the breadth of it. Um, the chapter's like, whoa, and it really makes you start to think about yourself. And it's amazing how many people really don't trust themselves. I have a good friend. His name's Craig Schmel. He wrote a book called The Uninvited, which is now being made into a movie. And this is a guy.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of traction. Really super guy. He was a screw up. He handsome guy,
Hmm.
alcoholic, young guy, crashed parties, crashed the Grammys, got on stage with Whitney Houston, went to Russia, stole a flag. I mean, all sorts of crazy behavior. Was terrible at
Okay.
work. And he just was a complete screw up until finally he was crashing and burning. And I interviewed him for the book, and I
Hmm.
asked him, "Do you trust yourself?" And he went to his whole story. But the first thing he said to me, he says, "I, for me to answer that question, I would ask you this because this is the most important thing. Do you like yourself? Do you like? Because in order to trust
Hmm.
yourself, you have to like yourself." And what he had to say, his observations are so eye-opening. So the gamut of this is really, it's beyond. I could go on and on about this
And
book,
that's
but
in the book, right?
it is in the
That will
book.
be so for everybody that's kind of anticipating. You said your release might be next summer. Is that what I recall?
Well, historically, it's taken me a year to write a book. I've been working on this for 4 months, but I've got like 7, 8 chapters that I'm working on. Some of them are, pretty much finished, and it's wide. So I'm moving at a very fast pace.
Hmm.
I'm anticipating sometime in 2020, and I'm basically, candidly, I think about it every day. I'm working on this every day. I have a chapter in the book. Um, do do you trust products and their reputations? Now, I can't tell you. I mean, it's limitless how much stuff there is out there, and products that are bad for us. I mean, the skin creams that have toxic chemicals.
Hmm. Hmm.
Johnson and Johnson. This is an interesting thing I tell in the book. In 2018, had 100,000 lawsuits on their products. 100,000 lawsuits. People don't know this stuff, so
There was
it's
cancer, right, with their powders and stuff like
yeah.
that. The baby
So
powder.
baby, can you imagine baby powder, ovarian cancer? Suntan lotion. I got this whole thing about suntan lotion. It's in Europe.
Hmm.
They have very few suntan lotions that pass. 95% of our lotions they won't accept in that country. They
So
won't
how do
accept it in.
yeah, that's right. Isn't it something that Europe does not accept a lot of our foods too?
There's a lot of things they won't accept because it doesn't pass their scrutiny in terms of safety. Which is like, you're kidding me. I mean, you would think we would be at a different level. Vitamins.
Hmm.
There's no overseer of vitamins. Supplements. It's
Nope.
just the company tells you they're good. That's it. That's the degree, the bar. You're now ingesting things into your system that you've been sold the bill of goods, and it goes way beyond it. And so this chapter is really cool too. You can tell I'm getting a little passionate about this.
Yeah, no, and it's such a topic that is so popular right now, especially with the recent stories. And I need to get your take on this. You've heard about the pharma companies and all, coming out saying that
Opioids. Yeah.
at the end of at that right now, they're not about curing disease. It's just about shareholder profit. They want to maximize profits.
Well, that's the way it is, unfortunately. I mean, that's the
Hmm.
way it is. It's about, and that's exactly the argument with which, all these companies go shortcuts and cut costs because it's about maximizing profits. It's not what's good or right. It's about maximizing profits. And at the end of the day, bad things happen. There are a lot of things out there that happen that are just not regulated. Not just on that, there's just so many other things that, we trust
Hmm.
that we need to be a lot smarter about.
What would you
In
do?
fact,
What would you do to fix it? Do you have a way? Anything you ever thought about?
well, you talking about on a macro level trust. You're talking
Yeah,
about just
like if you were given the power and you could fix it. Have you
so
ever given that thought? Yeah.
my buddy Craig told me a story about when he hit bottom,
Hmm.
and his family made him go see somebody that turned out to change his life. And this person he went to see unfortunately passed away, but he was such an incredible impact on his life that he, based upon all these things this guy Craig did, and this is in a book. When he went to see him the first time, he asked Craig, does he like himself? And of course I like myself. And he said, so that's interesting. He said, and he stood by the window and he pointed down the street. See that guy over there? I said, yeah, you see that guy? Well, he cheats on his wife. He's got 5 girlfriends. She doesn't know. He's very bad at work. He shows up late, leaves early, doesn't put a full effort in, not a good friend, not a good family. He drinks too much to the point of doing embarrassing things and can be very rude to people. He only thinks about himself to the extent where he could do whatever he wants to do. And he turned to my friend Craig and says, "Do you like that guy?" He says, "No." And he realized then that this gentleman was talking about Craig, him. And he stood there for a second, paused, and he literally said to me, he just started to cry because he had the epiphany that that guy on the street that he was using as a metaphor was a reflection of him. And that was the start of changing his life. And he said to me, when I asked him if he trusts himself, he said to me, "You have to like yourself first." And I realized I really didn't like myself. I was doing all these bad things and harmful things. And he almost really put himself in a terrible position.
Did this person know his backstory? It seems like, right, to be able to say these things.
He knew the background, and so that it was like the first time he came to see him, and he had the complete lowdown of what he was doing and the behavior, so he was prepared for him.
Huh. Interesting. And like, what kind of advice would you give, for someone that is starting a business or is in the middle of a business? Since I don't know what you can say, how much you want to release right now, but if there's like one tidbit that you could give, why did this happen to you? Like, is there something you would tell people to be cautious about trusting your partner?
I Look, yes, the conclusion of the book, which I haven't started writing yet,
Okay. Yeah, we don't have
will,
to get too into it.
but I'll tell you what the theme of what it'll be.
Yeah.
Trust, but verify. And that's a Ronald Reagan statement
Mhm.
regarding the Russians. Trust, but verify. I didn't verify a lot of things. I just believed what I was being told, and I just didn't look that thoroughly as to, the numbers because I couldn't fathom that he was stealing. So trust, but verify. I would never forsake trust. I think it's such an powerful and meaningful thing, and I give that off. I have so many people in my life that care about me, and I trust a lot of people.
Mhm.
I've just gotten a lot smarter, and all this, to your point, writing this book, I'm learning so many things, and aside from this being cathartic, I'm sharing things that you really, really need to know. I mean, things that are so important that you just don't realize, and it's very, very wide. And by the way, I would offer to any of your listeners, and they're more than welcome to reach out to me. If there's a story or a thought or an idea
Mhm.
that you think is important to share, because I want this book, I'm going to make this book a bestseller. It's going to stand out. But if your story is something that you think that would be impactful and meaningful that you could share with me, I'd love to hear it. And so, what's the email address?
Name of the book: Trust is a Double-Edged Sword. At Gmail.
So the place to go is
Mhm.
Trust is a double-edged sword. Trust me or no?
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, David's looking up I have an email account that
Yeah.
people can reach out to me and or send me stuff that they'd like to share.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
definitely plug that.
Trust is a double-edged sword.
Trust is a double-edged sword
At
at gmail.com. Trust is a double-edged sword at gmail.com.
All right. Trust is a double-edged sword at gmail.com.
Correct.
Got it. And I mean, they could also, is another method also your LinkedIn?
Yes.
Probably, but
Yes.
the email will be the one we'll steer people towards. No, that's great. I'm sure that's a nice offer you got going on there. So whoever's listening, be sure to
Well,
reach out to Jeff.
I tell everybody,
Yeah.
I tell strangers about this book. I mean, I literally, aside from that, I'm really passionate because I find out things based upon their reaction. I just told the story in the book about a guy who was at a real estate trade show 10 days ago. And it's like a networking session. So I'm just out there and I'm schmoozing and talking to people. And this gentleman's standing next to me and he's in the business. We're talking about what we do. And, then I said, well, aside from this, I'm on that board of Signature Bank and I write books. I write books on networking, but I'm really passionate about my new one. I tell him the name of what I'm doing. And I said, the catalyst here is I've got really screwed by a, crooked sociopath partner. And his face changed. I mean, it was like, all of a sudden, literally, I just saw he said, I had a really bad thing that happened to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And he started telling me this entire story about what he went through. It's in the book. So that's
Look
why,
at that.
and that because I can't be the source of everything. This is something that affects all of us every day in some way or another. Every day, trust is an increment You get on an airplane, you're trusting the pilot to, be a good pilot. These crazy stories about the guy that took the plane down, killed everybody. You trust is you take it for granted. And that's what we can't do anymore. You got to be really mindful of, and that's my intention.
Certain things I feel like you can never find out though, right? Like a pilot, you'll never find out if that what his intentions are, right?
It's an extreme example,
yeah.
But I'm just saying that consider how pervasive trust is. I mean, obviously we're don't even think about it because major and stuff does happen, but everything we do, lawyers, lawyers, they're out to make fees. They're in the business. I mean, I could regale you with stories of how some of them are really bad, and it's just so obvious that they're just pushing the pedal to generate fees. In the various aspects of law. So you just to be conscious of all this stuff is really important.
Yeah, I've had quite a few experiences with my family with attorneys as well.
So you can relate.
Yeah, but it's something you can't really live without, right? I mean, it's the way the world is made, and certain professions just are there and will need to be there. It's kind of not much we can do.
It's a reality. You're right. It's an unfortunate reality, and when you get mired in it, it's costly and it's emotionally, distressing. But like you said, it's just the way it is.
So what advice would you give to someone like me that a few years back, was where you were years back as well, sitting there in that cubicle, like since then you've done so many other things, you went through so many experiences, good and bad. But what advice would you give to these individuals like me that are debating, is entrepreneurship for them? Because it's not easy.
So first thing I would tell someone to do is it's not just about you. It's about the people your relationships, your contacts, and you got to stand out. Now, maybe you don't know totally what you'd like to do, but let's say you're working for a company. Let's say you have a responsible job you're doing, you're 33 years old, 34, you don't love what you're doing. What I would recommend doing, being the networking guy, is think of 3 friends, 3 people that you respect, 3 people that do different things than you, and call a breakfast. And all 4 people are doing different things. And when you start this breakfast, say, look, we're all at this earlier stage in our lives. We're looking to figure out the next moves. Where there are opportunities. How about we become a team? And I use that word, it's more of an acronym. Together, everyone achieves more. Why don't we become a team? And why don't we meet once a week? And let's learn about what we're doing and what we're about, what our interests are. And let's make a commitment that we're going to look to help each other and be mindful of each other. So Tom, you might meet somebody, at a lunch net in a day or two that you think would be great to introduce to Bill because there's some commonality. And we collectively look to help each other. And once a week or once every 2 weeks, rather than once a week, once a month, whatever time period we decide to do, we get together and we review all the things that have happened in that month. After a month, 2 months, we invite a 5th person down, someone else, another contemporary that and he presents who he is, or she presents who she is, what she does, and how can the room help? And you build your group, and you start collecting people, and you start empowering people. You make yourself stand out. So now when you're out, you're talking, well, I created this little organization that we now have 9 members. We meet once a month, and we're all there to help each other. Oh, really? What type? Yeah, I'd love to come down and speak. And all of a sudden things start to happen. You got to stand out, and you got to do things to make you become a magnet to opportunities. And that's I'd recommend that to anyone that has, desire to do it. It works.
And I mean, worst case, you meet some people, you learn a few things here and there, right? And you see if it's for you.
Well, right? Look, if you're a wallflower, you don't have, you don't like engaging with people, and you're negative, then get a job that pays by the hour. I'm not dismissing that because there are a lot of people. But if you want to go out and do things, you want to make an impact, you want to be passionate, you have a bug in you that you're hungry to, find something you really get excited about. I would recommend that it's all about knowing the right people. And the way you know people is by creating environments that you're constantly meeting new people. And if you create your own thing, it makes you stand out.
Awesome. Well, now we are on to our listeners' favorite segment of the show.
Welcome to the round with no name, because they're all taken.
All right, hope you're ready. Hope you're ready,
Go ahead.
Jeff. This part, I got to explain the rules to you real quick. You get 5 seconds to initiate each answer. Here, we're just going to kind of get to know a little bit more about you. And otherwise, my producer, Steve Wiley, he's very on me about this. He's like, if you don't make sure these things are out quick and he's, spits them out in 5 seconds or less, then I'm going to come out there and give you a hard time. And quite frankly, I don't like to deal with my producer. Not a nice guy.
Can I negotiate for 6 seconds? I was kidding.
You know what? I will, let's push it. Let's see what happens.
Go ahead.
So without further ado, what is your favorite book?
Oh, there have been so many.
Not your own.
I'm trying to think which is my favorite. Actually, the story about World War II, which they made a movie out. I can't think of the name. The camp.
Glorious Bastards?
No. It was an unbelievable movie.
No.
It was. They made
There were so many.
There's so many. I can't think of the title, but that's my favorite book.
World War II book. Got it. Favorite movie?
Shawshank Redemption.
Okay. Classic. I don't think anybody's actually mentioned that one yet. If you had an unlimited amount of money right now and you could start up any business, can't be your own, what would it be?
Well, I would do two things. One is I would, I'm a real estate guy, I'm an investment guy, I'm looking for things. I would, which I'm doing anyway, but, unlimited money would obviously enable me to do a lot more. So that's that. But if I have unlimited money, then it's about charities. I really look to make a difference and help people. And I would put a lot, I'm involved in charities now, but unlimited money would enable me to be much more involved.
Got it. Say you were stranded on an island. This is going to happen. Just in case this happens later today, I'm going to get you thinking about it.
Okay.
What is the one item you want with you? It can't be a person.
Water.
Like a water bottle or like a big jug?
I think I need an abundance of water to survive. So water would probably be the number one thing.
Water's good.
Drinking water.
Solid answer. Another one I actually thought about myself. One of those water straws. Since you're already surrounded by water, maybe the straw that just purifies.
Yeah, but you can't drink ocean water.
Don't they have some specialized ones? I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't.
If you're stranded on an island, chances are you have coconuts and hopefully you can find some water.
Hopefully a lot of coconuts.
Hopefully.
Who has been or is your greatest mentor?
Wow. Fortunately, a friend of mine that just passed away, he was named Lester Rosencrantz.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, just a phenomenal person, always there for me, good and bad, and pretty sad. But that's the gentleman's name.
I'm sure he appreciates the shout out. So right now, say that we had a very important business meeting, and I was coming into your office, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to show you how to make millions. And I walked in with socks and sandals. How would you feel about that?
Well, it's not what you're wearing, it's what you're saying and what you've done in the past and who's part of your team and your game plan and strategy that becomes the compelling driving force, to have a real interest. Mm-hmm. So look, I dress well, it's just who I am, but it's what the person's about and their acumen and their abilities that really dictates, the interest.
Good to hear. Well, that's noted. That's noted, just in case if the opportunity comes about. How do you drink your coffee?
Black.
Straight up?
Straight up.
You know what they say, right?
Yes, I know the expression.
The one about psychotic? Or no?
Oh, no, I thought there was another expression.
Oh, which one were you thinking?
I'll pass and tell you.
All right. It's a HuffPost. We did a research, and I drink black too, so I'm cool with it. They say that it's linked to people that are a little more psychotic than normal, with like more psychotic tendencies, which I've realized a lot of entrepreneurs that I interview drink straight black coffee. So maybe
I have a reason for drinking black coffee. It's because when I started drinking coffee, it was known that when you put cream or sugar or milk into coffee, it has an acidic reaction, which is not really good for your
Mm-hmm.
stomach. So I just never developed an interest in drinking with milk, sugar, or cream. And I just, I drank black for that particular purpose, to avoid the acidity.
Do you have like celiacs or dealing with something like that, or
No,
just
no. I try to, do things as healthy as I can from the perspective of what I put in my body.
what is the one item that you consume every day? Not coffee, but it's something that you either consume or you wear it on you, but you can't go a day without it.
Um, well, I drink. I intentionally drink at least a half gallon to a gallon of water a day. I mean, it's a absolute requirement for me. I work out, 6 days a week, so that's part of it. But I have to have a substantial amount of water every single day.
Awesome. When you start out, I'm gonna drink that much. I was like, what could it be? What could it be? But then I realized it's water. All right. Well, you survived. I survived. My producer did not come out, so that's good. How do you, I wanted to thank you, by the way, and for people to get a hold of you, especially if they have some stories for your upcoming book about trust and just the experiences with it, right? They could email you at trustisadoubleedgedsword@gmail.com. Jeffrey Meshel, everybody. Check him out on LinkedIn. Last name spelled Meshel. Any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to share with our listeners before we part ways?
The gamut of what we discussed really comes down to a very important credo. It's all about making a difference. Do the right things, be mindful of people, have integrity, be considerate, care, and then you become a magnet to, be for good things in your life. People that lie or deceive or, their motives are self-serving and they're inconsiderate, they don't like themselves. And, and then really probably have issues trusting themselves because they go on bad paths. So it's really important to do the right things and be helpful to people, make a difference, and great things happen.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, it's truly been a pleasure having you on. Appreciate you taking time out this morning, and definitely looking forward. I can't wait to see this book and get a copy when it's out. Cannot wait.
Well, I'll be sure that happens, and I'm going forward. And I appreciate any of your listeners. I mean, I'll even give you my cell number. They can call me 917-364-1732. I welcome thoughts, ideas, stories, topics. I have another chapter in the book, Trust Youth. I'm going to talk to millennials to get their scoop on what they think trust is. So, the gamut of all this is extremely wide. So someone comes up with a really interesting idea that I haven't thought of. That's what makes it powerful. It's not my brain alone, but the contribution of very smart people that have their own experiences.
I think that's actually a boss to boss exclusive. And I know that's your personal number because I've called it. So you don't hear many people doing that. So we'll see how blown up your phone gets.
Well, listen, my first book, you know the title of my first book, right?
One call away.
One phone call away.
One phone call away. So yeah, no, that's one way. Hey, that's what we did first, right? We were on a phone call. That was first.
That's where it starts, right?
Awesome. No, I love it. Well, super excited. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day and looking forward to reconnecting, especially when a book is out, so we could kind of see, how you feel that you finally got through this big part of your life right now.
And now you know the story of the book. I challenge you to come back to me and say, I have something I want to share with you. Talking to people, what do you think about this? Maybe this would be a great thing to add to the book. You give some thought to it. I mean, you talk to a lot of people, and you started to tell me before when we first started speaking about this, some earlier things that happened that you were unsure. Give some thought to it. I'd love to chat with you about it.
Definitely. All right. Looking forward to it. Have a great day.
You too, pal. Thank you so much.
That is all for this episode of Boss to Boss. Your next step is to visit bosstoboss.com, where you will find proven techniques followed by professionals to help you make that next step. Again, that is boss2boss.com. And remember, the time is now.